My pleasure to welcome back onto the program one of our county commissioners, Pete Gosar. I visited with you back in February when I kind of started this monthly visit. How you been? How are things going?
I've been well, thank you, David. My voice is a little bit just like everybody else in spring, Laramie. I think we got to quit meeting like this. We're selling a lot of snow shovels. Last time I was here, it snowed too, so maybe we should schedule the next one for August or something.
No. All right, okay. I think we could do that. I think we could do that. Hopefully we're not shoveling snow in August. Let's just put it that way. So, Pete Gosar, County Commissioner, in studio with me this morning, and big news coming out recently with the renovation of the north side of the courthouse, trying to simplify and just kind of fix that entrance. Take me through some of the details, some more of what that discussion was like, and obviously it sounds like you guys wanted to do some more things, but kind of constraints of the budget and the costs ended up kind of scaling the project down to a degree.
Yeah, you know, this project started before my time, but I have seen, the plans, and I think it's gonna look great, right? There are some issues with ice and the infrastructure of the building on the outside, and so this should take care of that, and along with the security of the courthouse, and so there'll be an entrance that has all the security devices so that we don't have to have security at different places outside the courthouse or the courtroom itself.
Okay.
And so this should really upgrade the look of the courthouse, make it a lot more functional, and I think people will like it.
Now I know that north side of the courthouse, it's much like many north-facing buildings. In the wintertime when the sun's kind of dive to the south side, you just don't get it's not easy to melt the snow and ice, but you guys had to take some of the slicker portions of this kind of out, it seems like.
Yeah, you got the must you have to fund, and then those things you'd like to fund, and so we lost some of those things you'd like, but the infrastructure, the big part, the envelope of the building, and the stuff that needs to be done, that'll be funded, and we've left space that when we come back and we have a little bit more money, we can come back and do the nice options that everybody'd like to have, but aren't really necessary at this point.
Yeah, the heated sidewalks and different things like that to help melt some of that snow and ice. So it makes it a little safer to get in and out of the building, essentially.
Yeah, and some of that will be taken care of just by the design, right? So
Okay.
there won't be these huge stairs going up that are half a foot wide and sloping away. So I know our facilities manager Roy is really excited about it, and we can't get going fast enough for him.
All right, so that'll be starting. How close are we to starting here in the next couple months, probably?
I believe so. I'd like to see. I know everybody'd like to see it start tomorrow, but I think June, July for sure you'll see some dirt flying.
Okay, all right. So look for that. North side of the courthouse going to be redone and make things a little safer and simpler in terms of the entrance on that side of the building. What else we got going on here? It's been a few months since I talked to you, and been even a couple months since I talked with Commissioner Jones on the program. As I mentioned, our audience, I haven't had a chance to visit with you guys, so want to kind of catch people up. I know the budget is big. You guys are coming up on that. That's never an easy conversation when you're talking about budget, because it's what you can do with what you have, basically.
Right, and I haven't been through one, so I'm just going to speak out of ignorance here a little bit, but just knowing the last 5 months of my tenure, that you have to make hard choices, and that's unfortunate. You wish you had more to be able to spread out around folks, because it translates to services, and so you try to do the best you can. That'll take the majority of our time, I've heard, for the next month and a half. But there's been some other exciting stuff happening too, right? There's an opportunity to do what an MRI of the ground over the aquifer, right? With a helicopter and partnering with UW and the city, and get a look of what is happening under there geologically. I think that's important, right? When you think about a spill maybe coming down the summit on I-80, if you can pinpoint where it's most dangerous to you, then you get to first responders to be able to hustle out there faster. If you have a little more time, maybe you have a different way of looking at that. They're excited at the first responders.
Well, and we'll talk more specifics about that in a moment. I think that's kind of reaction. I remember there was a little bit of a spill on 80 up near the summit earlier this year, and I saw some people, that was one of their first reactions was is this all spilling into the aquifer type of situation. So what this does, and you can explain this a little bit more, is it really dives into flying a helicopter that can basically take a nice cross section and fill you in on what's going on pretty deep down in the earth.
Right. I think they'll have images that come from 1,200 feet, but there'll be a lot more to be a higher resolution 300 feet, which is really where we need, right? Our aquifer is not that deep. And so can we get a look at the different types of formations and where the water is, where the water isn't, right? What the granite is, where it's a different type of rock. I think all that information is really good when you're thinking about making plans for what to do and with, you know, accidents or zoning or all those things, right? The aquifer is important.
Well, and for all entities, not just you guys. You were talking about the university, talking about the city of Laramie. Everybody's got to say on that, because I know that some of the building on the east side of town, you know, you've had to kind of think, all right, where can we put stuff and where can we allow things to go in terms of car dealerships, gas stations, different things like that. And I know that there is the group that is kind of oversees aquifer protection and advocates for the clean water, and so it's one of those situations where there's a lot of people interested in keeping that aquifer pretty clean, since it's our primary drinking water source.
You bet, and I think with more information, right, you hopefully can make better policy, and that is the ultimate goal as far as I'm concerned. And then if you can team with big agencies like UW or the city of Laramie, and you can have an understanding like this is what it means to the community in general. I think we have to start looking a little bit more broadly and get out of our silos a little bit and say, what does this mean for the community of Albany County? And we're all impacted by that, so let's work together.
How will this impact the land purchase here? Does this have a significant impact in terms of just, you know, anything regarding that moving forward?
No, that's a completely separate track. I'm hopeful that we'll have something on that. I think it's really important to do that purchase, the pilot land purchase, but we need to do it right? And the devil's in the details, and I would like to see more in the way of getting what's known out to the public, right? Everybody that I talk to is a real supporter of it, but you need to talk to them, right? Even if you don't have something to say, go on the radio and say, I don't have anything to say, right? But we'll get better at that. I think that group is working really hard, and it's a complex arrangement, but I hope to have something done here by, at least an idea of how this is going to move forward in a timeline that makes sense.
Well, and I know that some of it was land swaps and different things, and it is a complicated matter, but it sounds like it's still moving forward in the right direction, Pete.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is outside of our hands, right? Even though it's offered to the county, it's the state land that's making the state land swaps, and so you really can't tell somebody else what to do, and as much as you'd like to, but it's a little bit out of our hands, but we'll keep on it. I think it's so important to all of us.
All right, so we're continuing to kind of follow the Pilot Hill land purchase, and if any big news does pop, we'll of course fill you in, and Tom will be following that here more and more in the coming weeks and months. Visiting with County Commissioner Pete Gosar this morning, Laramie Live on KOWB. What else is going on? What else has been kind of big issues popping up here in the last couple months that kind of come to your mind here, Pete?
Well, we've had some zoning issues that always come to the front, and you take those on a case-by-case basis, and those are difficult decisions to have. And I just think about one yesterday about food stamp money, TAMP money, and we had $135,000 or so in requests, and we had $87,000 to dole out, and so you feel like there's a no-win situation for you, because all of those agencies that are applying, they do such good work. And so can we come up with a different process so that we can, instead of making a decision at a commission meeting, can we have a group outside say, hey, these are, the agencies, and this is where you get the most bang for the buck, and this is where we think it would be useful to use that money. And then can we find a way to grow it from the state? Can we say, hey, this county has a lot of need, but we have a lot of organizations that meet that need, so can we up that, right? It makes a lot of sense to take care of folks in their homes and make them more self-sufficient.
All right, so that's been a big one. I know you and I were talking before we got on there about looking at ways to kind of improve broadband access, and it sounds like just internet access and reliability, maybe more than anything, I think, for consumers across the county.
Right. I think a lot of times you have the idea that maybe you're just always reacting at the county, and I think maybe you should be a little more proactive in government. And I think if you look at a place like Lincoln, Nebraska, or Hammond, Idaho, They just kind of took a look in the future and said, I don't think the internet's going to be less important, and so we're going to get involved in that. And so they made these collaborations with cities and counties and big entities to say, let's start this. And I think there's money in the state from the endowed. It's one of those big ideas to help folks, because I think what sells here is the quality of life. But you don't want to, if people have slow broadband, they really can't do some work here, right? They can't set their businesses here. And I don't know if you have the same feeling that I do, but there's a lot of really interesting ideas coming out of folks from the university, and sometimes they're just 18 years old, right? And they have these great ideas, and if we could help them establish a backbone for their idea, they might just set up shop here, right, and hire a few folks, and because you can still go skiing and mountain biking in 15 minutes, and you can't say that in San Francisco.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I think that is big. I think that's big to, how do you diversify some things from an economical standpoint? I mean, obviously, we're not as dependent on the mineral industry in this county, but you're still, and I think Albany County has done a decent job of trying to diversify itself between the city, the county, and other entities. But it's still that never-ending process of how do you help someone kind of develop their idea and see it come to fruition, but see them maintain here within Albany County.
Yeah, I think for a long time in the economic development is, hey, go grab that company from some other state and pay them to get here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that that's necessarily such a great idea all the time, and I think you miss the opportunities of the businesses that are already here, right? They're already established. But then you get an infrastructure and say, hey, we got this really good broadband, or we got fiber. Establish your company, right? We're going to have this opportunity for you so that you don't have a competitive disadvantage to somebody in Silicon Valley. And I think if you look at Lincoln, Nebraska, right? They did this with their downtown, and now that thing is really, they're called the Silicon Valley of the Midwest. And Lincoln, Nebraska is not so different. I mean, it's bigger than Laramie, but it's still a college town, and there's a reason why college towns flourish with high-speed internet.
All right, so looking at high-speed internet, what else kind of comes to your mind in terms of major issues, things county residents have brought to your guys' attention here in the last couple months, other topics you guys have been talking about?
Well, I think it's really near and dear to me that to try to ask people to engage with us, right? I won't stop talking about that. I think when you have 3 people working on a problem, you only have 3 ideas. But if you have 40,000 people working on a problem, you're going to get a much bigger solution set. And so asking people to engage with us and say, you know what, I wish the meetings were at night. I wish there were something where you could come to. But you know what, there's always a way to come with email. We're working on trying to get ourselves live streamed. So even if you're at the desk, and I don't want to cause any problems with work, right? But watch in, tune in. If there's something you'd like to see, it'd be great if you could just dial it up on the internet and make comments. It'd be helpful to me as a commissioner.
Okay, all right. I know that you guys have dealt with a difficult subject. This has not gone away since last November. I know that ACOP came in and talked with you guys. How did you receive what they were talking with you guys about last month a little bit, Pete?
Well, I think, right, that, and there's only so much I can talk to you about, but I can talk about, what I think as a citizen. And I think that there's an opportunity here. I think it's tragic, what happened. But I think, can we turn this into some sort of positive? And I think yesterday we were given instruction from the Attorney General that we can't sanction any ad hoc committee locally, and who's going to listen to Albany County and in Weston County about what we think about policing. But I still think that there's an opportunity to have a community conversation. I think for a lot of what we do, not only at the commission, but at the sheriff's office or wherever, depends on public trust. And can you take this and take the lessons that are learned and there's a bunch of resources out there, right? Retired police officers, mental health workers, community members who engaged and say, can we make this better? And I think whether the Albany County Commission supports it or can endorse it or not doesn't really much matter. I think the work needs to be done. Okay. And I would urge people, if you think it's important, please get engaged. It's only going to help.
Okay. Transparency, I know that was a big thing when you ran last fall, and just trying to keep those open lines of communication between the commission and the public. That was a big thing for you.
Yeah, it is. I think you welcome people in, and you ask them, hey, this is what I know and this is what I don't know. Can you help me with that? I think that's really important. People will.
Okay.
And I think you're having me on your show is just a really nice opportunity for me to talk to folks and say, you know what, here's Pete Gosar, CEO, albany.youtube. Send me a note, right? I don't know what I don't know, and if you have an idea of how roads could be built or how roads could be taken care of or another idea on how we do whatever, I'll be willing to listen, because you never know where the good ideas come from.
All right. As we look at it, anything else here? We're just kind of any other topics right off the top of your head before I let you go this morning?
No, I just would say, once again, just to stress that the county commission is the people's commission, and it's just not the three of us. And so, please, if you have an idea, and I don't care how wild it is, right? I have wild ideas all the time, right? I think you might have a good idea, and so please hit me up. And I hit Terry Jones and Eva Richardson and say, this is what I'd like to see. And then you've helped us out quite a bit.
Well, and that brings me to one last real quick question here for you, and I don't know necessarily if it's quick, but it kind of piques my curiosity. We have a commission of 3. There are some places that have 5, and I know this got brought up in a conversation in terms of, is 3 the right number, or would 5 be a right number? Do you have an opinion on that, Pete, just in terms of, folks serving the public, in terms of the number of commissioners here in Albany County?
Yeah.
Whether 3 is a good number, or should there be a move to possibly up it to 5 to help out? I mean, it's a unique portion of Wyoming where you see some counties that have 3, some that have 5. We happen to be one that has 3 county commissioners.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a political answer, but not really. It's what I really think. I sit on 9 boards and commissions as a member of the commission, right?
Okay.
And so that's a lot. If 5 would lessen that, right? And there would be a less than that load. So that'd be helpful. But then you have the salaries. And Albany County is not long on funding. And so if you take money and put it in a commissioner's salary, then you take it from somewhere else. And so that's another discussion item that you have to have. For me, 3 or 5, I think it's really important to people that populate those positions. And so, if you have 5 people that don't do a good job, well, it doesn't much help. If you have 3 people who really try and are really working, well, that might be the better thing. So for me, it's always people. It comes down to people.
Well, and I think that's an honest answer. I mean, because 5 would lessen your load, but is 5 from a financial standpoint viable in our county right now? And I would say, I would tend to say you might hear more county residents say no, because then what you brought up is, if you're going to budget for county commissioner salaries, you're taking money away from different things that the county commission is trying to do.
That's correct, but they're good arguments either way. I really do believe it, and I can see it from both perspectives. But as long as people have the idea of this is what the give and take, the good and the bad for each idea, well then let's vote on it if that's how it comes down, and whatever happens. But my whole goal is to get good people who are really trying to work, who are not so much reactive but proactive. We need to start thinking about what the future looks like in Albany County instead of, hey, we have what we happened to yesterday, right? We have to put an emphasis on that, but we also have to look at the future and say, what's our vision for Albany County? Yeah,
absolutely. Certainly understand that. What's the biggest thing you've taken away now 5 months on the job here?
Well, there's a lot of reading. I gotta tell you, I spend my evenings reading, and so when people tell me about the Game of Thrones or any of that stuff, I really don't have any idea what they're talking about. I see it now and again, but I can tell them about zoning ordinances and those things, right? And I'm not sure those are going to hit HBO anytime soon, but it's a lot of work. I'm glad to have had the opportunity to do it, and I'll try really hard. I think that all you can say is more work. I'm going to try to be honest and open about what I know and what I don't know, and then I'm going to ask people to help me out because it's a big job.
You guys have your contact information, phone numbers, and emails on the Albany County Commissioners website. Go to co.albany.wi.us and go to the Commissioners page. You can get a hold of Pete Gosar, Terry Jones, or Eva Richardson. Thanks so much for coming on the show with me today.
Hey, thanks, David. Thanks for having me, and let's hope spring comes.